Hello, bonjour, Savan. How are we today? It is Saturday, March the 22nd, 2025, here in southwestern Ontario, Canada, by the beautiful unfrozen shores of Lake Huron. It did snow this morning, but again, only lasts a very short time on the ground and then it just melts because, we had so many warm days that the ground is. I don't think it's frozen anymore, I'm just guessing. I've been hearing a good amount of information on one topic today, so I wasn't going to come on because I have done a lot of videos in the last 2 days. I uploaded those 10 videos that I channeled back in 2020 and 2021 about the light cell energy body. And I also did an equinox video on the 20th and a post-equinox video on the 21st. I was getting hints about a certain topic that we were going to delve into more. So this morning I was hearing about, again, a topic we delved into quite intensively last fall. Between September and December, I think it was. Those videos, if you want to go back and view them, if you didn't see them, all about manipulation and control. How beings go about gaining control here over you, or perhaps you're part of that program and you do it as well. I think we've all been accustomed to that type of behavior and control system here, but as we've been hearing, that's wiped out forever, and we don't have to put up with it anymore. But of course, when there's brainwashing involved and programming, deep psychological programming, we have to undo all of that. So I was listening to this from Spirit this morning, a little bit more about how the chains are being lifted and how I'm hearing it as the approximation of higher spirit light will make it all right. So in other words, the closer we are connected, the better our connections are with our higher selves, the more energy and awareness we're going to have to be able to disseminate the truth from the lie. And it's all been a lie. Okay? It's all been a lie perpetrated here on your world and on your planet. And this is what you're waking up from. You're starting to remember, your memory codes are coming on, your energy codes, the subliminal codes. You're starting to remember who you are, where you're from, what you're doing here, your mission, what you volunteered for here, the whole bit. So I was contemplating some of this information, and I was saying, well, we covered that, did we not, last fall? Do we have to go into this again? Because we do repeat. Repetition is how we learn. It's also how you get brainwashed too. So you see why you have to disseminate which is higher light information and which is lower light. I wrote it down because I didn't know if I was going to remember. Okay, so I was guided to watch this show, and I just finished it about an hour ago. It's a YouTube channel of Lisa Bilyeu, Bilyeu. She does a program called... oh dear, what is that anyway? I didn't write that down, but if I remember correctly, it's Women of Impact, I think, is what it was. Anyway, she was interviewing this criminal analyst. It's a woman, I think she's from Britain. Laura, I think was her name. And it was called I Profile Psychopaths. And so I ended up sitting down watching it. It's about an hour and 20 minutes, so it did take a while. But it was very fascinating. I found it fascinating. perhaps you will too. But it kind of sort of showed me what we were talking about last fall. What we were talking about last fall is about the dominant control power over structure, which you hear us referring to so many times over and over again. That's the old Draconian law, rule book kind of way of dominate and control, or be dominated and lose whatever you've got. And this is very interesting to me because this is a spiritual message channel, and all of the information I receive I pass on to you directly, verbatim, most of the time. And it was interesting to me to hear this woman, the criminal analyst, talking about psychopaths. I haven't really delved into that particular word. When I get information from spirit guidance, there aren't the labels. I think the only label I've ever heard was kind of like the narcissistic way of being. And that's it. I don't hear the word psychopath or sociopath or any of those labels and words that our medical community puts on to, behaviors, conditions, whatever, dis-ease. So I listened very intently, and everything she was saying related back to what we were channeling last fall. But she gives it to you in a more 3D perspective, of course. So if you do want to go listen to it, I'm hearing that it would open up a lot of doors in the mind and the mind's eye for you to understand some of the complexities and the brainwashing and the torturous behaviors that have been going on here for such a long, long time. It's now filtering and has filtered and has been filtered into the genetic system for a very long period of time. So thus it's going to take us time to rewind that, take us back to the beginning where we didn't have that anymore. That's how we heal. Even from, as I've explained to you as a herbalist, we talk in terms of having healing crises. It's when you start to heal with herbs. If you're, let's say, 40 years old, then your body will start to heal at the age of 40. And then after everything is done that the body wants to do, it goes back to the age of 39. And then it goes to the age of 38, and so on, back to birth. And that's how the body heals. So you have to undo all the damage that has been done to the physical body and beyond. So we're going through these different clearings or healing crises of the soul and the soul complexes of light because they've been damaged by too much conditioning in the lower light, which we referred to in the last two videos. The missing piece in her wonderful explanation was the spiritual factor. Now, she did include being intuitive and how we know when we're around somebody that's no good for us. She did acknowledge that, which is really good because in past decades, that was kind of poo-pooed. It's like, oh, well, you're just being silly or whatever. It wasn't acknowledged. It's now being acknowledged from what I was watching on that show, which to me is a really good thing. And it's not being made fun of. It's actually being acknowledged and valued and respected now. So we've come a long way. But there's still the aspect of where this is coming from in the first place, which is the Draconian teaching here. Because as she said, a psychopath, she wrapped it up within the first few minutes. It's all about either they dominate, a psychopath dominates you, or you dominate them. And that's their whole world. That's all they understand. That's Draconian behavior, Reptilian. So the guardians of the lower light are saying that that's been a recipe for disaster for most of us who have come after, because it has conditioned us to believe that the world is, and I'm hearing it like flat, like it's we've lost all our oomph, our energy. It's like a balloon when it goes flat. You've lost that fullness and capability of the higher light to hold the higher light. So some of these teachings are all right, and some of these teachings take us back to the dark of night. So this is the temptation from the past line of time when you slip back into these behaviors, and we all have a certain amount of narcissistic behavior and power and dominance and control, power over others, behaviors, because it's kind of wired into us, hardwired at certain times, certain moments in time. This is what we're unweaving from, their web of lower light. We're unweaving from that. And the more you tune in and have your higher connections with your higher light, the more that is erased from the genetic material within you. So then you start to be more aware of it. Because before, and the stories, she tells some very horrific stories about, and she is labeling psychopaths are men, not women. I don't know anything about that part of it, but she gave all the examples were on the psychopathic men who did horrible things to the women who fell for their trap, their brainwashing. It is very interesting. It's a little disconcerting, but she did it very well. She handled it very well, giving out that information. So as we come into our higher light, we have more discernment. We have more ability to understand the lower light and what's going on. So again, we don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We can understand, okay, there's been conditioning there. There's been an alliance with the lower light. As we explained in the last two videos, we came in here to learn the lessons, in other words, gain the experiences of being in the lower light, of understanding the psychology of the lower light, which is dominance and control and power over, which is why all these systems now are being dismantled. This is for your health. I'm hearing it for your own good and for your, oh, that sounds condescending, doesn't it? For your good and for your health and for your wealth. Okay. See, we still have some triggers, don't we, that are going to push our buttons when we hear some of this information. Oh. And we're going to have to work through that too. So some of these compliance issues that we've had over time have been because we've been wired to understand that prominence comes through dominance and control and violent action. Again, it's coming from a more draconian code of light, the reptilian. There are other beings as well. If I hear any other names, I'll give them, but basically that's the entrainment. That's where it's coming from. It's a vicious way of life. It's filled with morbidity and strife. Yeah, mortality. So there's no immortality. It's a very short lifespan, in other words. It's not as we couldn't fulfill our entire lifespan that we were supposed to have here on this world because it cuts us down short, right? We get done in, we get slaughtered, we get killed, we get whatever. We have a miserable life. We don't live a full, entire, healthy, wealthy, happy life as a result. So these are the barriers that are being broken down, that have been a barrier to our higher light. But as we wake up, we shake those old codes off. We go, wow, the scales, they say that for a reason, the scales fall off the eyes. We can see now. We can actually see what is happening in front of us instead of the mirage or the subterfuge, or as I always hear it, the lies, the big lie. I've always heard it as the big lie. Your whole planet's been under the big lie. There's no truth. There's no truth to any of the stories you've been given. I'm hearing it's a pathetic way of being. But we came here to learn that. This is not in criticism, this is in understanding of why we came here to go through this hell on earth atmosphere, this low, dense way of being. And we came here to usher in the new light, the higher light. This is the age of Aquarius. We're coming into our own now. We're coming into the releasing of the subterfuge and the old energy bindings that held us to the past, into the victimhood programming. You're always at a loss if you are playing the victim role. This is not the time to go there and do that. It's time to lift yourselves out of this complex way of being and into the light, which is a simple, high light way of being. There's no more strategy. There's no more control. There's no the perpetrator and the victim. Okay, this all goes because the draconian brain, the brain stem, the lower light, the codes, the genetics, the DNA, it's all gone. It's all erased from time. So these time waves, these new time waves or timelines that are coming in don't have that recipe for disaster. We don't need it anymore. It's no longer required. Once you pass kindergarten, you don't have to go back. You can continue on and go through public school, high school, college, university. You can become masters of your own race. You don't need to have any old trace of any old race. So this is our growing up time period. We have mentioned this before. But we can't overlook the damage that's been done. You've got these PTSD moments. You've got these fear moments, feeling fear. And that's what this woman, Laura, was talking about, that the psychopaths use fear to dominate and control. Sound familiar? Remember 2020, 2021, 2022? Remember those years? We were reminded of it yesterday in the video, the post-equinox video. There was a reason that was done. And I'm hearing it was done for us. It not only to us, but for us, so we would awaken faster. Because then we started to see, this doesn't make any sense. This is radical readjustment in the higher light. I don't get it. Like, that doesn't make any sense. How can you sit in a restaurant? How come they made you wear a mask to walk into a restaurant? They sit you down at a table and then you're allowed to take the mask off to talk and drink and eat and socialize. How does that work? So in that 2, 3, 4 foot table, whatever you're at, in that particular space, there's like a little dome over you that doesn't allow any viruses or whatever floating around in the air. I mean, it's, if somebody coughs or sneezes, of course, it's just going to stop at the edge of your table. It's not going to keep on coming, right? Seriously. How many fell for that? Fear. Because of fear, you're going to die. Seriously? I remember in my training as a PSW, we were told how far, and I wish I could remember the exact number of feet or miles or whatever it is, when someone sneezes, like it's supposed to go on for like almost a mile or something. Anyway, I might be exaggerating, but it's a huge distance. And no mask is going to protect you from that. And anyone in the healthcare field knew that. But it was a psychological thing. Oh, people think if they wear a mask, they're protected. Really? Psychological. Oh, yes, I have a shield. I'm okay. No. And as we said yesterday, the WHO came out and said that their lockdown made everything worse. Follow what Sweden did. They stayed open. They got through it better than anybody. I think, I'm trying to think, maybe some of the other Scandinavian countries did well. They always do well. So we've gone through the lessons of power over, dominance, and control. Have you had enough yet? So when we see all the systems on your planet and on your world being shaken up and broken down, it's for a reason. It's for a reason of growth, of inner growth, of higher, better ways of being, to establish peace and contentment and joy and the simplicity of living in the higher light, which is what we're supposed to be doing at this point in time on your world. It is a high light way of being. It's angelic. It's divine. So it's where you take the root chakra and you lift it up through the crown and beyond. So it's no longer low. And the root chakras represent your tradition, your culture, food, money, sex, everything 3D-ish, materialistic stuff. Okay, that's being reawakened, realigned, grounded in a higher divine line of time. So all of these movements in the lower lines of time are being regurgitated out so that we can rest and digest it and allow it to leave. So don't think hanging on to the old ways of being are going to save you. They're not your rescue. Right? It's time to abort that mission. We've learned all we've needed to learn now about living in the lower light, about the psychology, the psychological warfare. We get it. Been there, done that. We don't need it anymore. We've passed our test. And we're moving on. And we're moving on up in the higher light. So again, embrace that higher light code within you, the genetic codes that are sparking on and coming back to life now, coming back to light. Open the heart chakras. Speed up the opening of the throat chakras to tell the truth, finally. Don't, out of fear, just hold it all within you and be afraid to speak your truth or to question. Because right now, it's like you can't even question anything without being punished. Wow. So all of this has to be removed for us to finally move through the ascension light properly. So now is the time to lift yourself up. Now is the time to get going on your new course of events to happen in your life according to how you want that to be and how you want to live your, I keep hearing it, into eternity. Because there is immortality. Okay, not hearing anything else. Hoping this is making sense. I didn't know this is, We're going to go into such depth here. I'm just the messenger. Okay. I love you always. Take care of yourselves and others. If you do wish to book an appointment with us, you can go to the website www.healingourenergy.ca and you can book there. And we're going to go. We'll be back again with another message. Blessings. Bye for now.